Everyone, good morning. You have reached the Human K channel. Today, I'd like to talk about the interesting field of human motivation and the work of Carol Dweck, who is a well-known researcher in this area. Dweck's studies on what drives people have taught us a lot about why some people succeed and others don't, and, more importantly, what we can do to help ourselves succeed. Dweck's study crosses the fields of developmental psychology, social psychology, and personality psychology. She looks at how people think about themselves and how that shapes their sense of who they are and how they act. Her research is mostly about finding out where these ways of thinking come from, how they affect drive and self-control, and, most importantly, how they affect success and relationships. In her groundbreaking book, Mindset: The New Psychology of Success, Dweck shows us how our conscious and unconscious thoughts work and how they have a big effect on us. She shows how something as simple as how we say something can have a big effect on our ability to learn and grow. Dweck's work shows how important our core beliefs are, whether they are in our conscious or subconscious thoughts. These ideas have a big impact on what we want to achieve and, in the end, on whether or not we reach our goals. In fact, a lot of what we know about ourselves and who we are comes from how we think. This way of thinking can help us move forward and push us to reach our full potential. But it can also be a barrier that keeps us from doing what we're really good at. Dweck says that our self-perception, or how we see ourselves, is a big part of how successful we will be. She tells us about the stable mindset and the growth mindset, which are very different. The fixed mindset is the idea that our traits and skills are fixed and can't change. People who think this way often feel like they need to prove themselves over and over again, and they try to avoid making mistakes instead of using them as learning opportunities. Dweck gives clear examples of how people with a fixed mindset approach every situation with the goal of proving their intelligence, personality, or character, which they already think they have. They are always judging themselves and wondering if they will succeed or fail, look smart or stupid, be accepted or rejected, or feel like winners or losers. They feel like they have to show themselves in every part of their lives. But Dweck shows us another way to think, the growth attitude. In this way of thinking, our natural qualities are not fixed traits but rather places to start growing. It's the idea that we can develop and improve our basic traits through hard work and dedication. With a growth mindset, you can do a lot of different things. By taking this point of view, we create a strong desire to learn. We don't waste time trying to show over and over again how great we are. Instead, we focus on getting better all the time and growing as people. Dweck asks us to think about why we try to hide our flaws instead of fixing them. She wants us to think about why we choose friends and partners who only make us feel good about ourselves instead of those who also push us to grow. She also tells us to try new things and be open to situations that take us out of our comfort zones. Dweck shows that the growth mindset is marked by a strong desire to get better and the ability to keep going even when things get hard. People who have a growth attitude do best when things are hard because they see setbacks and problems as chances to learn and get better. How we think affects how we see risk and work. Some people know how important it is to push themselves and are willing to work hard to learn and grow. On the other hand, some people don't try because they think it doesn't matter. Dweck warns us about the problems with self-help books that give random tips and advice on how to be successful. She questions the idea that you can just look up to successful people without knowing how their different traits and actions fit together. Instead, Dweck urges us to understand the link between how we think and what we do. When we believe that traits are fixed, we think and act in a certain way. When we believe that traits can change and grow, we think and act in a totally different way. People with a fixed mindset may have read books or gotten advice that says it's important to work hard, see failure as a chance to learn, or value being their best selves. But they have trouble putting these ideas into action because their view that traits are fixed goes against these ideas. They still think that success depends on having more natural talent than other people, that loss determines their worth, and that trying is a sign that they are not good enough. But, as Dweck points out, exceptional people have a special ability to turn setbacks into future wins. Studies on creativity have shown that a growth mindset gives people the perseverance and grit they need to be creatively successful. Dweck says that if we have a growth attitude, failure may hurt, but it doesn't make us who we are. It turns into a problem that needs to be met, solved, and learned from. She says that the famous basketball coach John Wooden was right when he said that we only really fail when we start pointing fingers and denying that we did anything wrong. Dweck also shows how important it is to work just outside our comfort zones, which is where growth and change thrive. Just outside of our comfort zone is where we improve, and this is why intentional practice is so important. People look at these problems with either a fixed or a growth attitude, wondering if they aren't smart enough to solve them or if they just haven't solved them yet. Dweck also shows how our culture pushes us to raise our kids to be successful right away instead of giving them a growth attitude. She talks about a high school in Chicago where kids who didn't pass a class got the grade, not yet. This simple change in language shows that they are still learning and gives them a way forward instead of calling them failures. Dweck's study with 10-year-olds shows once again how important mindset is. Some kids took challenges in a positive way and saw them as chances to learn and grow. They had a growing mentality. But some people saw problems as tragic and terrible because they were stuck in a fixed mindset that judged their ability and made them feel like they had failed. People with a fixed attitude tended to avoid problems, pay less attention to their mistakes, and even cheat. As teachers and parents, we can have a big impact on how people think. Dweck says that we should be careful about how we praise, and instead of praising intelligence or skill, we should focus on the process. By giving praise for effort, strategies, focus, persistence, and progress, we teach our kids to be strong and resilient. Also, the words we choose have a lot of power. Dweck shows how important it is to use words like yet and not yet when talking about learning and growth. These words give you confidence, show you a way forward, and encourage you to keep going. In a study, Dweck and her team showed students that doing things outside of their comfort zones and that are hard for them can make the connections in their brains stronger and make them better over time. Students who were taught this lesson about having a growth mindset did much better in school than students who were not taught this lesson. In the end, Carol Dweck's work tells us a lot about how our mindset affects our lives and gives us real ways to develop a growth mindset. I really think you should look into Dweck's excellent study.